Before this video starts today, I just want to say thank you to our patrons, Nanani no Nora Paidrei. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. And let's go ahead and get today's video started. Hey guys, this is Vandiazo back again with another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. If you guys enjoyed, don't like, comment, subscribe, and don't to the Patreon. Let's get one started. Today we have Dragon Empire Bavsargra deck profile. I want to call it Bavsargra so badly, but Bavsargra is how you're supposed to pronounce it, and that's probably the one few times I'm going to say it this episode. So let's go ahead and get this one started. Set 4, Bavsargra. Very interesting. We got two new weapons, and one of them everyone spams like a hell, and then the other one no one ever uses unless they're going suicide bomb, but people still run as a one of tech because they kind of just want to. That's the situation we're in with Bavsargra, but at the same time, we got like a lot of grade 1s and grade 0s that the deck supports. Let's go ahead and go through them. First up is our starter, Sealed Blaze Dragon Arhinsa. I can't say it properly now. When I go on camera, I can't pronounce words properly out of instinct, but then when I am off camera, I can talk like normal. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield at 6k base, auto when it's rolled upon if you win second, draw a card. Nothing too special about it, but really cool looking starter, like... Well, one, this starter is required for you to use your ride line because the grade 1 requires the starter, but my thing about this is... I don't know, when I looked at the Japanese card and then I looked at the English card, in terms of fandoms, because in terms of real life, obviously there's a difference, the English one looks better online. I don't know if it's just me, but the English one looks better when it comes to digital. Just looks really cool. I don't know why, like the Japanese one just looked blurry and then this one looks like it's popping. Either way, really cool starter. You do need it if you're going to run the grade 1 of Sealed Blaze Maiden Bavsargra ride line, so yeah. Then we have our Overtrigger in Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Dragveda. 5k base, 50k shield, grade 0 with boost. Overtrigger, you may have one Overtrigger in your deck. When you visit a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, plus 1 million for the turn. If revealed during draft check, that have a additional effect, which is additional effect, choose one of your Vanguards and stand it. Okay, you get double swing with Vanguard attack, and your sword and gun both require the Vanguard to swing for their skills to go off. Actually, no, I don't think that's true. I think the gun is an act ability, so it goes off during the main phase. Maybe I'm wrong. It might be an auto ability, but... in my personal opinion, Obari is the better Overtrigger in this deck, because this deck can spam out grade 1s like hell, but once more, you're spamming out grade 1s like hell, and unlike Luard that can just pump up Force Gifts to all of your board, they're not getting that much pumps. The most pumps they're getting is Persona Rides, triggers, and their own effects, which I most put them at 13 on their own. So, in my opinion, Obari is a better Overtrigger, because it just makes your column swing for bigger, like... Vanguard boosted by Trickmoon hits like 40 to 50s on average without triggers, which is really good swings. And then you obviously want your rear guards to hit like astronomical numbers, so you run Obari for it. But if you want to run Dragveda because you want those extra drive checks, which is what I like out of it, especially because I just like standing units regardless of what they are, go Dragveda. But Obari is a perfectly good substitute and arguably is better than Dragveda in this deck. Our trigger lineup, besides the Overtrigger, is 7 crits, 3 of them being Zonne, 4 of them being Burning Flail, Dragon, 4k base, 15k shield, grade 0 with boost, critical trigger, auto, rear at the end of the battle that it boosted, put it to soul, choose one of your plus 2 for the turn. Yeah, you only run that for that soul ability. That 2k never comes into matter. Our front trigger, Blaze Maiden Parama, 4k base, 15k shield, grade 0 with boost. Front trigger, continues Garden Circle. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, gets plus 5k shield, so 20k shield at grade 3. And a heal trigger. If you're wondering why we do not run the draw trigger that has extra shield, it is because you want to rush your opponent down with criticals, and getting too many hand cards in a deck that can soul charge and draw is not a good thing. Like, the deck doesn't really struggle with defense. Like, you get a free 10 every turn unless you just chose not to equip the shield for whatever reason. And it's not that hard to, like, maintain hand and then still call the rear guards because you are calling them back via Bavsargra. So, you don't really need the draw trigger. If you run the draw trigger, that's for an extra form of safety, because this deck has been working perfectly fine without the draw trigger. So, yeah. Then we have our 4 copies of our last grade 0, which is our normal unit, Trickmoon, 5k base, 5k shield, grade 0 with boost. If the grade 1 didn't require the starter for its skill, people would use this as the new trick star for Bavsargra, and then just shove this as your starter, just to get it to drop zone quicker. Auto, when it's placed on back row rear guard circle from your drop zone counter charge one. Okay, very specific, but it gets you a free counter charge. So, you can work with this with the Nirvana, you can work that with Bavsargra. Either way, get you a free counter charge. And just boost, auto rear. When this unit boosts, the boosted unit gets plus 10k for the battle for each card your Sealed Blaze Maiden and Bavsargra is armed with. So if you have 2, plus 20. So this thing could be a plus 25k booster on a first grade 3 turn, because you can arm twice on first grade 3 turn. And the best part about this ability is, it doesn't say where it has to boost from or who it has to boost. It just says when this unit boosts. It can boost from back row center, it can boost by the columns, rear guard columns, it can boost a rear guard, it doesn't have to boost a vanguard. It's a 25k booster if you have 2 arms equipped. If you have 1 arm equipped, it's plus 15. So Trickmoon all around is like a really good card. Huge boost. If it was on swing and on boost, you could shove 2 of them in a column. It's an immediate 50k column. Trickmoon suddenly breaking the game. Unfortunately, it's not, but still, nets you a free counter charge. Granted, it's very specific where it has to go for that counter charge, but it also can swing for 25k and is really easy to revive. 4 of. Next up, we have 4 PGs and Twin Buckler Dragon. 6k base, grade 0, grade 1, boost, 0 shield. Continuing Sentinel, you may have to 4 Sentinels in your deck, and auto when it's placed on guard circle. Choose one of your units and it cannot pay until the battle. If your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard 1. Standard PG ability, nothing special about it, but if you don't know what that means, it means if this and only one other card is in your hand when you would play this down on guard circle, you do not have to discard anything, which is really good, because, this deck already has, enough guarding power, and we don't want to discard more, even though we're discarding a meh about just to, get fodder for Bavsargra. So it's nice that you can still play aggressively, call down the board, and then not have to, commit a few hand cards for PGs, because as long as you go down low enough hand cards, PGs will save you. And that ability actually is the sole reason why Overlord won against Barrow Magnus. So, 4 of Twin Buckler, it's an amazing grade 1, or just a PG, and it's a nice card. And unfortunately, all PGs are really expensive now. 4 copies of Stealth Dragon Fushimachi Madoka. Grade 1, boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear guard circle. If your opponent's drop has 4 or more cards, this unit gets plus 2k and plus 5k shield. And then if there are 8 or more, it gets plus 5k shield active on both players' turns. So, if they have 8 or more cards in drop, boy's a 10k base and a 15k shield. Okay, that shield's never going to come in handy if you call it to rear guard, because this thing cannot intercept, and I don't remember anything that can make it intercept from Dragon Empire, but if there is, then there you go. But either way, it's pretty good. That 10k swing is nice. I mean, that 10k base is really nice, and then, for guarding purposes, you can guard with it, and then just call it back during your next round Bavsargra, and you got the 10k out of it. So, every grade 1 of this deck is useful with Bavsargra, because as long as it has a rear guard ability, it's useful, because you can just guard with them and then call it right back. 4 of Fushimachi, it's a really nice card. 4 of Sealed Blaze Dragon Ihsita, 7k base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. I don't know why I liked looking at this card when it first came out, now I kind of just hate it. Continues rear guard during your turn, this unit gets plus 2k. For each card on your Vanguard circle includes arms but not the soul. So it includes the Vanguard, it includes the arms, but it does not include the soul. This also includes Legion Mates. I am 95% sure it includes Legion Mates, which means it most likely would get plus 4 if you had a Legion on it. But, arming the Vanguard with 2 cards at once. Oh, wait, let me rephrase that. 3. We all know it's going to be 3. The way they worded Bavsargra was unnecessary unless there was going to be more than 2. It's going to be at least 3. Don't bullshit me. We all know there's going to be a third one. We just don't know what it's going to be. Either way, it's a 13k during your turn. It's kind of it's, by my opinion, what I would call a lackluster kind of card, because this thing, yeah, it's kill fodder for everyone who sees it, and granted, that's fine, and it's discard fodder more or less for me, but this thing has never done anything impactful for me. It's just been a 13k booster that has just been there to be a 13k booster. Honestly, Trickmoon is more effective, because Trickmoon gives whatever it's boosting plus 20. Ihsita's still good. It really is still good. It's just, this thing compared to Trickmoon has not been clearly as impactful, and I don't know, when I see other people play this deck, they rarely get to call full board of Trickmoon to the back row. I don't know how I'm able to constantly do it every game that I play, where every game will just lead to a full back row of Trickmoons at some point, but Ihsita just never has been really that nice. I guess it's still a good card. I give it a 4 nonetheless, but it's never just been there when I needed it, I guess. And then our last grade 1 is our main grade 1 of the grade 1 of the ride line. Sealed Blaze Dragon Namorkahr. 1 copy in the main deck, 1 copy in the ride deck. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when it's placed on Vanguard by riding from the starter, which specifically Sealed Blaze Dragon Arhinsa. That's why I said the starter is required to be that one. Otherwise, you can just run Trickmoon. Soul Boss 1, search your deck for up to 1 Sealed Blaze Sword Prithivih or Sealed Blaze Shield Swayanbuh. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. So, search your deck for one of your 2 trial deck orders and add it to hand. Got it. And auto rear, when this unit attacks, it gets plus 2k for the battle. Okay, not that bad, not that good either. I mean, obviously this is better, and obviously this is better, considering like this is only just a 10k swing. But you know, that 10k swing comes in handy in the early game, and not to mention like it's a final call target worst case scenario, especially because this thing only works if you're armed. This thing works regardless if you're armed or not. So you know, it's a free call of a 10k swing, and you know his on-ride ability is just a free search order of the specific shield or sword, not the spear and gun included. Either way, nice card, one in the main deck because as long as it hits drop zones one way or another, you can fetch it out of there, and one in the ride deck because you need a grade 1 for the ride deck, but also because the only thing in this deck that has a Vanguard ability. And then our only grade 2, 3 copies of Sealed Blaze Dragon Halibadra. You may be wondering why I do not run the grade 2, and I do mean this, I do not run that grade 2 that's like discard an order, draw a card, gets +5. It is the same reason why I didn't run the grade 1 that does the exact same thing except doesn't get +5. Because during my games that I play with this deck, yes, my hand gets cluttered with orders, but then suddenly when I put in a card that discards orders, the entire like time I would have a flooded hand of orders, I don't have a flooded hand in general, as in my hand size stays at a minimum of like 3 to 4. At least with all those orders, I have discard fodder and intimidation factor. Without all those orders, I have none of the two. Like that was the thing with Bastion back in set 1. We all knew they had mainly grade 3s in hand, but you couldn't prove that, and they would have like 8 cards in hand. Suddenly that intimidation factor is kind of getting to you. That's the same thing with this deck. Like the grade 2 did absolutely nothing for me in the time that I was running it, to the point where running it at all would just be more bricking fodder than anything else. So 2 copies of Halibadra in the main deck, 1 copy of it in the ride deck. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when it's placed on Vanguard by riding from Sealed Blaze Dragon Namorkahr. I didn't realize it had to ride from the grade 1. I guess it's a good thing I wasn't like, I mean, I've always kept the ride line the same, but I never knew it had to ride from the grade 1. Choose an arms from your drop, put it to hand. So basically for your first ride line, you can discard whatever the hell you want, and then for this one, you just discard the order that you search with this thing, and then bounce it back to hand when you ride this. So your opponent gets no benefit out of knowing what's in your hand, and you lose nothing from it. And then auto rear, when this unit attacks, if your Vanguard is armed with anything, it can be 1 card, it can be 2 cards, hell, it can be 3 cards. I know it's going to happen, no one can stop me, they worded it too weird, it's going to happen. This unit gets +5k power for the battle. So 15k swing for free, which is really nice, unlike the grade 2, which did the exact same thing, except it involved you discarding an order, made you draw, so you were closer to decking out, got rid of an order, which means for later plays, if you just wanted to equip it to get a rear guard out of Bavsargra's ability, you couldn't, and its 5k was only for the turn, while this is just on swing. Yeah, I mean, I've made my point why I don't like that card. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad card, it's fine, but it literally never did anything useful for me whatsoever. It didn't even serve as discard fodder, because I always have a streamlined discard fodder for this deck. It's always Trickmoon or Trigger for first, order that I search for grade 1 next, and then the third one is always either Trickmoon or another Trigger. That grade 2 never came in handy, and is not getting a place in my version of this deck. If you want to run it in your version, run it, but it's not getting a place with me. Either way, Hellblade is a really nice card. It's an easy skill with a 15k swing for free without having to be placed to do it, and it only requires your Vanguard to be armed for it, and it just makes it so you have free ride line fodder. So 2 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the ride deck. And then our last normal unit in this deck is 4 copies of Sealed Blaze Maiden Bavsargra, or how I choose to call it, Bavsargra. Grade 3 Twin Drive Persona Ride, 13k base, 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the ride deck. Auto Vanguard once per turn. When this unit is armed, Soul Charge 1, choose a grade 1 or less from your drop zone, call it to rear guard. You get a free rear guard call. Cool. So that's really nice. The thing is about this, it is not mandatory. You could just choose not to use it, but the second you choose to use it, you have to Soul Charge and call. It's not up to either. And then act Vanguard once per turn if this unit is armed with 2 or more cards. You see, that's not just an English thing, that was on the Japanese text too. It is 2 or more. That implies that there's going to be at least a third one. If there are 2 or more, Soul Blast 2, retire all of your opponent's front or rear guards, and this unit gets +1 crit for the turn. So, nuke the front rear, gets an extra crit. Okay, not that bad, but then when you consider like all the right arm orders have +10 to Vanguard, that's at least a 23, plus Persona right on it, 33, plus Trickmoon behind it, 58 double critical swings to face without triggers. Okay, pretty good, and the best part is you can do that. I mean, you can't do it without the Persona ride, which brings you to like 48, all on first grade 3 turn. Your opponent's dead after that. Bavsargra's all around really good. Get you a board, get you a solo charge, get you a field, or get you a front row nuke, get you an extra critical. Now you may be wondering why I do not run that. I did say earlier that this is the last normal unit. If you're wondering why I don't run that grade 3, that gets you a quote-unquote free arms from drop zone or hand. What I mean by free, it's like Counterblast 1, you play the arm without paying the cost, basically. So the arm is free, but the skill isn't. The reason why I don't run that is similar to the grade 2, where it never showed. I mean, it's somewhat different. That grade 3 never showed up. Ever. Like, I teched out the 2 copies of Halibadra, who's in the main deck currently, for that thing at 2 copies. That mofo never showed up. Like, he always got damage checked, and because he's a grade 3, I can't search him out with Bavsargra from drop zone if he ends up in there via heal trigger. I just couldn't use him. He was ineffective as hell, and the one time I did draw him, I didn't need him at all, because I could just play the order, and the order was effectively better just to play. Like, there was no reason to run that card, because he just never showed up, and the one time he did, he made no difference whatsoever. So, he's a good card, I do admit that, but he didn't help me at all like that grade 2. Like, that grade 2 and that grade 3, no, if you want to run them, but they didn't do anything for me. And then our orders. 1 copy of the one of tech that everyone wants at run. Sealed Blaze Gun Chandra. Grade 3 normal order, or technically arms. Left DD arms, Sealed Blade and Bavsargra. What it means by left DD is it's left for her perspective and for your opponent, but for you it goes on the right. And to anyone who even tries arguing this shit, here, proof right now. You see, for us, this is on the player side that's going to use the deck. Oh, look at that. The art lines up when it's on the right side. You get my point. It's left side for her, right side for the person using the deck. It's a small thing. I just wanted to make that clear to the people who shit talk to me about me not being right about that, because there's physical proof right there. You can't deny it now. Anyways, play it by Soul Blasting 1. So if you just combine with Bavsargra, you just play it for free. Auto Vanguard, when this unit is armed with... When the armed unit attacks with this, Counterblast 2, and the unit armed with it gets +1 drive for the battle. At the end of the battle, put it to drop. Counterblast 2, and a deck that has 1 countercharger, who specifically has to be called to the back row center just to get a drive, and at the end of the battle, this thing goes away. I don't know what they were thinking when they made this. I expected this to be like a defensive arms, like the shield, to where it would be like nuke the back row, or maybe nuke an attacking unit that was a rear guard specifically, so no one gets the wrong idea. But just triple drive? I don't know about that. Like, I've seen some people win off that triple drive, and I've seen just a lot of decks flop because of that triple drive, because like it brings them 1 card closer to deck out. And trust me guys, 1 card matters in the long run, especially if people just start stalling the game, because after a while Bavsargra basically becomes impossible to move, and she eventually becomes like swing with Vanguard and slowly deck out. Chandra is an okay card. God, that only triple drive just kind of makes it bad. It's fine, though. Like, if it wasn't Counterblast 2, I said this would be worth running out of 2 of, but Counterblast 2, no, 1 of tech. If you run this, you run this because that triple drive is one day going to save you. That's my hope. One day it will save me, and one day I will get to use this card. Until then, I can't use this card because it keeps getting damage checked. 1 of. 1 copy of Sealed Blaze Shield Swabanya. To the people who wonder why I wanted to run 4 before and now I run 1, it is because 1, yes, I understood it was searchable before, and that's why it's why I 1 now. The reason why I ran it at 4 is because Bavsargra's ability, in case you cannot get the sword, you can keep replacing the shield and get the skill off. People didn't understand that for some reason, and that is literally the game I won on a channel with, where I had to keep reusing the sword. Go watch the video if you don't understand why it was at 4. Anyways, now it's at 1, because now we have more order options, so there's no reason to run it at more than 1, and it's searchable. Grade 3, normal order, left DD arms. To sealed blaze Maiden Bavsargra again. It goes on the left, and then if another left easy arms is on it, you get rid of it, and then play it by counterblasting 1. Auto Vanguard once per turn when this armed unit is attacked. That armed unit gets plus 10k for the battle. So, people call this a Tink Shield, or people just rest it to notify your opponent, hey, I'm using my 10k now. So, it's a plus 10 to Vanguard during your turn, which is really nice, because that means they have to actively call a booster just to swing over your unit, so you're forcing yourself to call stuff from hand, unless it's stuff like Verena or Bruce that can hit just big numbers normally. Swayanbuh is just a really good card to set on shield, and I question greatly why they made gun a thing when this is just arguably better to sit on. This is better for attacking for that final turn, but there's no other reason to not run this, because you can search it, you set it on Vanguard, you got a free 10k shield for the rest of the game. During your turn. During your opponent's turn. Really nice card, one of. 3 copies of Sealed Blaze Sword Prithivih, grade 3, normal order, right Deity arms. You brave it to the right side of Bavsargra in terms of her perspective, and your opponent's in terms of your perspective. It goes on the left. I'm not going to bother showing it because I already proved my point. Play it by Soul Blasting 1, so just like the gun, just when you arm it to Bavsargra, it's for free if you use her skill. Auto Van, when the armed unit attacks, that armed unit gets plus 10k for the battle, so it's a 23k swing automatically. Persona Red makes it 33, and at the end of the battle, that your opponent's damage zone has 4 less cards. Counterblast 2, put it to drop. Choose one of your opponent's vanguards to deal them damage. So, free plus 10 during your swing, so that's nice. And then if they have 4 less damage, you can choose to counterblast 2 and nuke the sword, deal them a damage. That's what the gun should have been. Except better. I don't know how they could have fixed the gun, but that's what the gun could have taken off of, because the sword gets you a buff guaranteed, and then if you wanted to, you could nuke the sword. The sword gets you a buff guaranteed, then you could nuke the sword if you wanted to, if they had 4 less damage to deal them a damage, which is really nice. Puts them to higher damage, especially in a deck that the Vanguard can swing for double critical, even if they guard the rear guards, or you can just choose to swing into their rear guards with your rear guards, and then force them to kind of be in a heavy position next turn where you swing with Vanguard where they have to guard it. Either way, Prithivih is a really nice card. Pushes them up for damage. A lot of people think it's useless after Spear, because to use this, you have to get rid of Spear. But honestly, Spear only has the value in terms of the turn you play it. Afterwards, the sword is inherently better, and there's no other reason to think otherwise, because they have the same plus 10k skill. The difference is sword can do something after it's placed. The Spear cannot. So 3 copies of Prithivih because it's really good, gets you that plus extra damage, and it still gives you that plus 10. And then our last card of the deck is 3 copies of Sealed Blaze Spear Aadhitya, grade 3, normal order, right DD arms to Sealed Blaze Maiden Bavsargra again. Play it by counterblasting 1. Auto Vanguard, when this card is armed, draw a card. You may play 1 additional order that turn. So basically, the second this gets armed to Vanguard, you draw, and you can play another order that turn, which means you can play Shield, which you most likely have because you searched for it. You could play Sword for some reason if you wanted to. You could play Gun if you wanted to. That's pretty much the point of Shield. It allows you to do Bavsargra on first grade 3 turn while they're at grade 2, which is really good, because before the Spear got revealed, you had to wait, or Spear / the new dragon that can arm from hand or drop got revealed, you had to wait till second grade 3 turn so you could arm 2 cards at once. Now you can arm 2 cards during the first turn. And continuous Vanguard during turn, the armed unit gets plus 10. So same thing as Sword, except the Sword, can be used when it swings instead of continuous. And it can also be used to deal damage to the opponent, which is why I do prefer the sword in the later game. But definitely that doesn't mean you should arm the sword first. You should always try to search the spear. Not search the spear, because you can't search the spear. Search the shield. Equip the spear, because hopefully you get it in your hand. Equip this, prioritize getting that spear over everything else. Equip the spear. Equip the shield. Boom, you got double armed. And now you're kind of set up, you can sit on that because you have a 10k permanent during your turn and a 10k permanent during your opponent's turn. And you can swap between the sword and gun when you need to in the later game if you get them. 3 copies of Spear, adds for consistency, adds for a good power buff, and allows you to just, do your main thing on first grade 3 turn. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is weird. I'm not going to say it's fun, because I find it fun on occasions and I don't find it fun on other occasions. It gets you, the thing about it gets you very consistent numbers. Unlike every other deck where the numbers will range depending on how setup goes in the game. It will always change after situation. This deck always seems to get a set number every game, which is really nice. You never have to just go through the efforts of having to calculate every number. It always is 40 to 58 on Vanguard. It's just always okay, 48 to Vanguard. You don't even have to think about it. You just swing and they do it. It's an easy deck to play. It's not that hard, really consistent, get you numbers on Vanguard, your rear guards, unless you have two Trickmoons behind them. They're not really hitting for that much, but you combine two Trickmoons behind them. They hit for astronomical numbers, get you arms. All around a good deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, join Discord, follow the Twitch, and we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.